Okay, hello pigeon fanciers. I've been asked a lot of questions about breeding conditions, so I thought I'd make a video and tell you what I do. Remember, this is what I do. It's not necessarily the right way, the wrong way, but I've done this 44, this will be 45 years coming up. So, and I've learned a lot, again, from my good friend Joe over in Belgium. We talk all the time. Matter of fact, we text every day. So, but let's talk about breeding. Everybody knows that there's you want your birds in good race condition to race. Well, you want your breeders in what I call breeding condition to breed. I really believe this. I have guys tell me that they mate their breeders up and some pairs go down, some pairs don't, fighting, this and that. Well, when fanciers tell me that, I know their birds are not in breeding condition. So first off, let's talk about when does the next breeding season start? What do you do? For me, my breeding season starts the middle of June, beginning of July, when I separate my birds. The birds should be stress-free. They should go through a great molt. I remove any birds that after breeding, if they lost weight, or you can just look at the best and keep the best. I breed off performance, or children of performance. I want them as close as I can to the racing. I don't, I'm not going to say I've never bred off a grandchild of a great pigeon, but the parents didn't do nothing, the grandparents didn't do nothing, say a great-grandchild. I like breeding as close as I can. But anyway, let's get back to breeding. When I separate my birds, I try to keep them as stress-free as possible. I don't do hardly any medication, only if I have to. This year I did medicate for a little respiratory problem in my breeders. It's really about the first thing they've gotten in, I can't tell you how long. I really don't clean them up anymore. I believe in the natural immunity in them. It took me a while to get that natural immunity. I used to be one, like a lot of fanciers, had to give them this and that and this and that, and I don't do that no more. And when I medicate, if I medicate, I try to medicate individually, but if I do want to flock medicate, I try to put the medication on the food. I really believe it's much better on the food than it is in the water. So, but anyway, when you separate your birds, feed them a good, nice, they're going to fall apart if they already hadn't started. Feed them a good, nice feed that's really good in fat, oil. I like to use, and you'll hear me talk about easily digestible proteins. I don't like the heavy peas and the beans. I like to use feed that's rich in protein, but it's easy digestible protein, such as safflower, hemp. I will put a little roasted soybeans in. I'm talking maybe 1%, maybe a 2% if that. But I really like to use easy digestible proteins and small seeds, small protein seeds. I found that the birds have much less trouble with their intestines and that if they stay away from a lot of the peas and beans. You got to have some. I'm not saying take a screen and get all your peas and beans out. No. You got to have some, but I try to make my mixes higher in the fat, and the fat is usually with easy digestible sunflower hearts. Again, good rich protein, but it's easier digestible. Anyway, so you separate the birds in June, everything's going good. Eliminate the ones that you aren't going to keep then, because it's a lot easier then than it is in the fall when they all look like they got their new suits on, so to say. 2 weeks before your breeders' males should be in their boxes and already have territory. As soon as I separate the ones that I know I'm going to keep, I'll have over there in the breeder boxes. And if I introduce any new ones, I try to get them in there as fast as I can. You want everything calm, just like you do when you race. You want everything calm. You don't want these birds to constantly be fighting. I don't like the stress. The extra stress is unneeded. But I get them in their boxes. The molt's going good. Everything's good. Excuse me. The birds are looking like $1,000,000. Now we're getting closer to the time when you breed. I don't care if you breed last week in November or if you breed March, middle of April, or middle of February, I'm sorry. It's all the same. 2 weeks before I put and keep your breeders on, I don't want to say a strict barley diet, but a lower protein, like a depurative. You don't want them getting too heavy, but yet you want to have enough in it to where the birds are built good. You don't want to have them starving and hungry to get the weight off. I try to control it. When I feed my breeders, I go out there and in the morning I'll give them what they want. They don't leave much, and in the afternoon I'll feed them again. And I like it when I get it about right. And you'll notice in the colder weather they'll eat more, but I get it to where you'll see 10 or 12 grains of barley left in the bottom of the bin after they're done eating. Then I know you got it right. They won't overeat. Use the barley as a little barometer. All right, well, we're getting now, you do that most of the winter or fall, and then now you're getting close to the time when it comes to breeding. And this is something that I have guys tell me a lot about, that they have a lot of trouble getting their birds to go down. In, I'd have to say, the last 25 years. I don't care when I'm breeding. I don't care how cold it is. I don't care. I have never had birds that don't go down. If I did, it's 1 or 2, if that. I can't even remember them. When I mate my breeders up, because they've been separated for so long, and I've done it the end of November like a lot. Now I don't breed until, put my breeders together, usually until the end of January. I'll put the birds that I'm going to send to one loft races to, I have them in a separate loft. They will be put together around December 20th, so I can get some of them earlier babies to these one loft races. For myself, I put my main breeders together about the end of January, 1st of February. I've won as late as February 14th, Valentine's Day. But let me get back to where we were at. 2 weeks. I've never had to where when I mate the birds up, I lock them behind the screen for 4 or 5 hours, and I start letting pairs out, and I don't care if they made it up with somebody else the year before. After being separated since June, they're ready to mate. Within a day, I'm talking hours usually, the same day, my pairs are all going back to their boxes. I'm not having any trouble with matings. Within 8 to 10 days, every pair, I usually have 20, 25 pair of breeders. Every pair will be down on eggs, and they will be 1 to 2 days apart. Occasionally you might get a young hen that might be 3, but I have very, very little trouble. If I do have trouble, what I do is I'll remove that pair, the cock and the hen both. And they weren't in the breeding condition. They weren't ready to breed. That goes back to that breeding condition. Well, let's talk about the breeding condition, how you get them there. You've already got the weight off them from feeding them really, I don't want to say light feed, but light feed. And now you're going to mate them. I turn my lights on for 18 hours, about 2 weeks. I don't go no more than 2 weeks. I don't go no less than 2 weeks. Right around 14 days before I mate them up. That gets them hormones going. I don't care if it's 10 degrees outside. Those birds, their hormones are getting going. I start maybe adding a little bit of, I like the Breeder's Edge from Breakaway Products, Doug Homewood. I'll start giving them that on a daily basis, maybe a vitamin. I use my performance powder on the feed. But one thing I really feel is key, and I start doing this 2 weeks before I put them together, is I use cod liver oil on the feed. I will put a little drizzle of cod liver oil on the feed, just enough to make it shiny, not wet, shiny. I will do that every day starting 2 weeks before the breeding season, before I pair, and all the way through the breeding season. Every day they will get that drizzle on it. And when I say drizzle, just enough. You can overdo it, make it sopping wet, and it's a mess. I just put enough on. You have to play with it till you see what you got to do, but I put enough on to make it shiny, and that's it. I feel that's a very, very big key. Another thing I do, and I do this year round, is grit. Fresh grit and the minerals every day. I don't pour a great big coffee can in a thing. I pour just a little bit. They clean up 90% of it. Every time I feed, I add just a little bit more. Not a lot. Just, you'll be amazed how much they eat, but you don't want to overdo it because it gets dirty and they won't eat it. So anyway, it's 2 weeks beforehand. The lights are on. Everything's going good. I go to mate up the breeders, and I've done it a couple different ways. The way I do it is I got the nest fronts that come down. I'll put the cock and hen behind the front. I have had it to where I slide the nest front back a ways, let the cock fly up, tread in front of the hen and that. And I really like that, but it is time consuming. Let them tread in front of it for a half hour, 45 minutes, then let them together. That works really well, but I've put them behind the wire, the front, and it's worked out all right that way too. They all get mated up. You start letting them out. Within 8 to 10 days, you got your eggs. You should have the whole round. They should all be down within 2, maybe 3 days. If not, they're not in the condition. I will remove them. But you'll be amazed at when the birds are really right. Very rarely will I ever have any bird not lay within 3 days. I mean, it's very, very rarely. I think last year I had, out of about 25 pair, 50 eggs, maybe 2 out of a 10-year-old cock that weren't fertile. Most of the time, I mean, I don't have much fertility problems. But you got to remember, my birds aren't full of medication. They don't get any medication hardly at all. One thing I do during the week on the off season before I start breeding, and I'll do it during the breeding season too, but on the evening feed when they're feeding babies, I take minced garlic. You get the minced garlic at Sam's or Walmart. It comes in a container, big. You can buy a great big container of it already minced up. I'll put a couple tablespoons in it in my feed and stir it in, and let that minced garlic just sit in there with that feed for 20 minutes before I feed it. It'll dry, get a little sticky, and then I feed it to the birds. I really believe the benefit of garlic for the pigeons is really, really good. I think it really helps their intestines. I think it helps their immunity. I really think it's good, but you got to remember now, I'm not medicating all the time. Some guys I know, they medicate for canker every round. If I have a problem, I'll medicate. If I don't, I don't. I only do it if I have a problem. So, all right, now the birds are down on eggs. Continue with the cod liver oil. Keep the lights on. Do not turn the lights off. Your lights will be on for 18 hours the entire till you are done breeding. I don't care. I don't even shut mine off until even come April or May. If I'm raising a few late ones, the schedule is still the same. Put the garlic on the feed, the minced garlic on the evening feed a couple days a week. The oil every day, a drizzle. And if you want to put some pink minerals, that's good too on the feed after the oil and that. But I just do a lot of natural stuff that really builds them up. All right, now the baby should start hatching. If everything goes right, you should have a very, very good hatch rate. I don't think last year I ever hardly lost. Even in the cold, I don't have no problems. You should be able to abandon them babies within 6 to 8 days. They should be growing like weeds. They really do, bloom. If they're not, the breeders aren't ready. They're not in breeding condition. Them babies should be as strong as they're ever going to be in their life coming out of that egg. If they're not, they usually go away. I usually will eliminate them. I only want the really, really top ones. And then that's your breeding. That's when your birds are really in that breeding condition. I don't believe you can medicate and get the birds in a breeding condition. If you have a problem, you must medicate. There's no fix-all for a bird that's sick. If you have a problem, you must medicate. I don't have that. I just don't have it. So, all right, so now the babies are growing. You're going to find that these birds are going to want to really go down on eggs. I've had some, right when the birds start feathering out, they go down on eggs again. So what I do, as soon as they start getting pinny, I'll put another nest bowl next to the one that I got in the box. It's amazing how fast they'll lay and go down on another round. I'd say within 15 to 20 days, 20 is even long, 15 to 18 days, you got another set of eggs in there after them ones hatch. One thing I do, and it's really good for the young birds, if you watch my young bird video, you know it, I will wean my birds regardless of whatever it is at 25 days old, the babies. I take them babies away, there's already another set of eggs there. They're already been sitting probably close to 10 days, 8 to 10 days. So it takes a lot of stress off the parents, and it's good for the young ones. I really believe they learn a lot more by doing that. I hope I covered everything. I know it's come second nature for me, but I've just done this for so long. If your birds, again though, if your birds are not all mating up, you should have no pairs that are not mated up within 24 hours. They should all be, mine are all mated up within an hour or two. And I start opening things up, and I may lock one up for another night or so, but overall within 2 days, 2 to 3 days, everything's good, and I'm not even worrying about it. The cock's driving the hen, they know where they're going. I don't make it complicated. I really don't make it complicated. If they're not, and they're not doing it, just remove them, put them over in a section, breed out of them later, because they're not in the condition. You want your team to be all like a little army. It just is so much easier when they're that way, and so much better. Give them the garlic on the feed a couple, 2-3 times a week. 2 weeks before you start breeding, the cod liver oil, just a drizzle, just shiny. Put some powder on it if you want. And start giving, like I said, I use the break away the breeder's edge, and in the water, and maybe a vitamin, but that's about it. And I hope this video helps, and I hope you guys can take something away from it. And feel free to contact me if you have any questions. I'll do my best to answer them. So, but your breeders should not be a problem. They should all, if they are, and things aren't going good, they weren't in breeding condition. And this is something that I was taught a few years ago from my good friend over there in Belgium, and he's 100% right. I'd say a few years, I'd say 10 years ago or better. But I've never really had much problem. So, but anyway, pigeon fanciers, good luck on this year's breeding season. I hope you all breed lots of winners. And feel free to contact me if you have any questions. Bye-bye.